Hashtag AI Tech News Intro. GPT 5.6 just dropped, Meta's chips are coming, and Claude just got a price tag. 7 massive stories reshaping AI right now, from OpenAI's new model family to Nvidia's marketplace crisis to Anthropic's breakthrough discovery. Stick around to see which one changes everything. OpenAI launches its new family of models with GPT 5.6. OpenAI just dropped GPT 5.6, and this isn't just another incremental update, this is a significant leap that signals where the entire AI industry is heading. The new family of models brings meaningful improvements across multiple domains, but what's particularly striking is their focus on cybersecurity, which tells us something important about where AI development priorities have shifted in 2026. To understand why this matters, you need to know that we're at an inflection point in AI capability. We've moved past the era where companies compete purely on raw intelligence metrics. Now they're optimizing for real-world applications that actually solve problems people care about. Cybersecurity improvements mean better threat detection, faster vulnerability patching, and smarter defense systems. This isn't academic, it's directly applicable to protecting everything from your personal data to critical infrastructure. OpenAI's investment here suggests they're betting that AI's killer app isn't just conversation or content creation, but actually making our digital world safer. The broader context here is competitive pressure and market maturation. As multiple AI companies reach similar capability levels, differentiation comes from specialization and practical utility. By building a family of models rather than a single monolithic system, OpenAI is acknowledging that different tasks need different tools. This modular approach is more efficient and allows for targeted improvements in specific domains like security. What this really means for you is that AI is becoming less of a novelty and more of critical infrastructure. The implications are profound. We're looking at a future where cybersecurity, healthcare, scientific research, and countless other fields are fundamentally transformed by AI systems purpose-built for those domains. The race isn't over, it's just entering a new phase where execution and specialization matter more than raw power. Meta's new AI chips will begin production in September. Meta just made a move that could reshape the entire AI chip landscape, and honestly, it's one of the smartest decisions we've seen from a major tech company in years. They're ramping up production of their own custom AI chips starting in September, but here's what makes this genuinely interesting: they're building them modular. That means instead of designing a chip that's locked into today's AI requirements, they're creating something flexible enough to adapt as the technology evolves. Given how fast AI is moving right now, this isn't just smart engineering, it's essential survival strategy. The context here matters enormously. For years, companies like Meta have been dependent on Nvidia's GPUs, which means paying premium prices and waiting in line while demand outpaces supply. By designing their own chips, Meta gains control over their infrastructure costs and their timeline. But the modular approach is the real insight. They're acknowledging something that most companies won't admit publicly: they don't actually know what their AI needs will look like in 18 months. Rather than betting everything on a single architecture, they're building flexibility into the hardware itself. It's a hedge against uncertainty, and it shows they're thinking several moves ahead. The broader implications are significant for the entire tech industry. If Meta pulls this off successfully, we'll see other major players accelerating their own chip development programs. This could genuinely break Nvidia's stranglehold on AI infrastructure, which would be transformative for competition and pricing across the sector. We're looking at a future where the companies building AI systems also control the silicon running them. That's a fundamental shift in how technology gets developed and deployed. September's coming fast, and when those chips start rolling off the production line, we might be watching the beginning of a completely different era in AI computing. OpenAI rolls out GPT 5.6 after government greenlight and announces ChatGPT Wo. Hashtag GPT 5.6, the AI model that needed government permission. OpenAI just got the green light to release GPT 5.6 to the public, and this isn't just another model update, it's a watershed moment for how AI development intersects with government power. After spending 2 weeks in a regulatory holding pattern where only government-approved organizations could access it, Sam Altman's team finally received clearance from the Trump administration to roll out what they're calling their best model ever. This wasn't a technical delay. This was a political one, and it signals something fundamental has shifted in how advanced AI gets deployed in America. Here's the context you need: we're living in a world where the most powerful AI models now require government approval before hitting the mainstream. That's not hyperbole, it's literally what just happened. OpenAI had to wait for regulatory blessing to release their own product to their own customers. The company is also launching ChatGPT Wo, a business-focused tier that suggests they're betting big on enterprise adoption. But the real story is that we've crossed a line where AI capability has become a national security consideration, not just a tech company's quarterly release cycle. What does this mean for you? If you use AI tools, you're now operating in an ecosystem where government agencies have veto power over which models reach consumers and when. That could be good, maybe it prevents dangerous capabilities from spreading unchecked. Or it could be restrictive, maybe it stifles innovation and hands competitive advantages to companies with better government relationships. The uncomfortable truth is we don't fully know yet. What we do know is that the era of move fast and break things in AI is officially over. The question now is whether the guardrails being put in place will actually protect us, or just protect incumbent players. Anthropic wants you to pay up for Claude Fable 5. The free lunch is officially over. Anthropic just announced that Claude Fable 5, their flagship AI model, will shift to usage-based pricing for subscribers. This isn't just another price hike, it's a watershed moment signaling that the entire AI subscription industry is fundamentally restructuring. For the past few years, we've watched companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, and others race to build massive user bases by offering generous subscription tiers at fixed monthly rates. That strategy worked when these companies were burning through billions in venture capital, but the economics simply don't work at scale. Training and running these models costs real money, and the companies discovered that many users were hammering their APIs far beyond what the subscription fees could justify. What makes this shift particularly significant is the context. We're now in 2026, and the initial AI boom has matured into a more realistic market. Early adopters who paid for subscriptions often used them sporadically, while power users consumed enormous amounts of compute without paying proportionally. Usage-based pricing fixes this misalignment. You pay for what you actually use. It's the same model that cloud computing companies like AWS pioneered years ago, and it's proven to be far more sustainable. Anthropic is essentially saying that the era of unlimited access for a flat fee is unsustainable when your best model requires serious computational resources to run. The broader implication here is that we're entering a new phase of AI adoption. The consumer AI market will likely stratify into tiers: free or cheap basic models for casual users, affordable subscriptions for light users, and pay-as-you-go pricing for heavy users and professionals. This actually mirrors how the software industry has evolved for decades. What's changing is that companies are finally being honest about the true cost of running advanced AI. For consumers, this means the days of unlimited cloud access for $15 a month are ending. For the industry, it means we're moving away from the hype cycle and toward a more mature, economically rational market where AI companies can actually sustain their operations long-term. Anthropic found a hidden space where Claude puzzles over concepts. We just got the clearest window into the mind of an AI, and what researchers found inside is making everyone rethink what these systems actually are. Anthropic, the AI safety company behind Claude, has developed something called the Jacobian lens, essentially a tool that lets them peek directly into the hidden layers where language models do their actual thinking. What they discovered ranges from fascinating to genuinely unsettling, and it's forcing us to confront uncomfortable questions about the intelligence we're building. Here's why this matters. For years, AI researchers have treated large language models like black boxes. You feed in a question, you get an answer, but the actual reasoning happening in between remains largely mysterious. The Jacobian lens changes that by mapping how the model's internal representations shift and flow as it processes information. Anthropic found evidence that Claude appears to be genuinely puzzling over concepts, wrestling with uncertainty, and even showing signs of something that looks like deliberation. These aren't just statistical tricks, there's something more structured happening under the hood than we previously understood. The business and safety implications are enormous. If we can finally see what's happening inside these models, we can build safer, more reliable AI systems. We can catch errors before they happen, understand bias at its source, and potentially prevent dangerous behaviors before they emerge. But there's a flip side. The more human-like these internal processes appear, the harder it becomes to argue that we fully understand or control what we've created. We're not just building tools anymore, we're building something that thinks in ways we're only now beginning to comprehend. This discovery is a watershed moment. We're moving from an era of blind trust in AI outputs to one where we can actually audit the reasoning process itself. That's progress, but it also means we need to move faster on AI governance and safety protocols. Because once you can see how these systems think, you can't unsee it, and you can't pretend anymore that we're just dealing with sophisticated autocomplete. Nvidia is a victim of the compute marketplace it created. Nvidia just became a victim of its own success, and it's one of the most fascinating paradoxes in tech right now. The company spent years proving that specialized compute hardware was absolutely essential for AI, that you couldn't build large language models or train neural networks without their GPUs. They were right, and they made an absolute fortune proving it. But here's the problem: by creating this massive, undeniable need for compute power, Nvidia essentially opened the door to an entire ecosystem of competitors who are now getting rich without doing the hard work Nvidia did. Think about what's happening in the marketplace today. Everyone from cloud providers to chip startups to semiconductor companies is now rushing to build their own compute solutions. Amazon's building custom chips, Meta's designing their own accelerators, and dozens of startups are emerging with specialized hardware for specific AI tasks. These companies are making serious money because Nvidia proved the market exists and proved it's valuable. But here's where it gets interesting: Nvidia has to keep innovating, keep pushing the cutting edge, keep investing billions in R&D to stay ahead. Meanwhile, these other players can often get away with good enough solutions that cost less and still capture massive market share. The broader implication here is that market creation is a double-edged sword. Yes, Nvidia created a trillion-dollar industry, but in doing so, they also created the conditions for their own competition. They can't rest on their laurels because the moment they do, someone else will offer a cheaper alternative that's 80% as good. This is the classic innovator's dilemma playing out in real time. Nvidia will remain profitable and powerful, but they'll never have the monopoly-like dominance they once enjoyed. And that's actually healthy for the industry, it just means Nvidia has to keep running to stay in place. Elon Musk praises Mythos/Fable, promises not to cut off Anthropic. Elon Musk just made a promise that could reshape the entire AI infrastructure landscape, and honestly, it's one of the strangest power dynamics we've seen in tech. He's publicly assured Anthropic that he won't cut off their access to his computing resources, essentially pledging not to weaponize infrastructure against a major AI competitor. The fact that this reassurance was even necessary tells you everything about how concentrated power has become in the AI industry. With roughly $40 billion in revenue on the line, Anthropic is essentially being asked to trust the guy who owns X, Tesla, and now controls critical AI compute resources. That's not a comfortable position for any company to be in. Here's the business reality: building and running large language models requires absolutely massive computational power, and there are only a handful of players who can provide it at scale. Musk's infrastructure has become so critical to the AI ecosystem that his word alone can move markets and influence which companies can even operate. Anthropic has been one of the few organizations willing to challenge OpenAI's dominance, but they're now dependent on infrastructure controlled by someone with his own AI ambitions through ventures like Grok. It's like asking a rival sports team to trust their opponent to supply their equipment. The broader implication here is troubling for the entire tech industry. We're watching the consolidation of power reach a point where one person's promise not to sabotage competitors is treated as newsworthy reassurance. This should be a wake-up call about how dependent we've become on a tiny number of infrastructure providers. Real competition in AI requires actual independence, not just Elon's good faith. Until we see genuine decentralization of compute resources or serious regulatory intervention, every AI company outside his orbit will be operating under the shadow of this exact same vulnerability. Thanks for staying updated with Neural Brief. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss tomorrow's biggest AI breakthroughs. See you next time.